You're listening to Opera Box Score.
Let's get ready to rumble!
Wherever you are, however you're listening, it's America's talk radio show about opera. It's Opera Box Score. I'm Weston Williams, joined by Oliver Camacho and Ashley Hardgrave. All right, this week we go inside the huddle with the Julia Bullock. The distinctive soprano and muse of John Adams just wrapped the Met premiere of Antony and Cleopatra and is sticking around Lincoln Center with her collaborators at American Modern Opera Company for the upcoming Run AMOC Festival. Somehow she agreed to spend her only 30 minutes of downtime with us. And then in the home team, we bring you a second exclusive interview with Elijah McCormack. The male soprano who is set to star in Haymarket Opera's Artaserse helps us celebrate Pride Month and the totally queer excesses of Italian opera seria during the High Baroque. Plus, in the 2-minute drill, Donald Trump earns rave reviews in a Cantonese opera, but his ticket sales at home are tanking at the Kennedy Center. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast on Spotify. Click follow on Apple Podcasts. Hit the plus sign. Email us your hot takes by writing to mailbag@operaboxscore.com or upload a voice memo using the You Got Something to Say tab on our website, operaboxscore.com. However you contribute, you'll get an OBS beer coaster, an OBS lapel pin, and a #1 OBS fan foam finger just for sharing your own hot take. And without further ado, oh my goodness, I'm looking around the room. Oliver is pre-recorded. Matt is nowhere to be seen. And for 2 weeks in a row, Ashley Hardgrave, it's you and me.
That's right. It's the Weston Ashley special. Although Oliver did provide some information for us. Oliver is still recovering from the epic French Open men's final. Apparently he had it on DVR. It started at 11 p.m. on Sunday. Watched the entire 5.5-hour match and award ceremony. If you don't know who won yet, we won't spoil it for you. You probably do since we're recording on a Tuesday. But we think Oliver was raptured in the final set tiebreak because we have not heard from him since.
It really is. I could feel like ripples through the force as if a million tennis fans cried out and were suddenly silenced. And that's when I know Oliver's watching tennis. What are you watching these days, Ashley?
A couple of things. First of all, I did watch the Tonys this weekend.
Yes?
We got some incredible performances. We got the 10-year anniversary reunion of the original cast of Hamilton, which was absolutely stunning. Cynthia Erivo was possibly the best host ever, with some slapdash, amazing opening and closing numbers, some very well-deserved amazing awards, some surprising awards, but one I definitely want to bring in is our opera connection to our dear, dear beloved Paul Tazewell, who has now designed for opera. He did the costumes for Fire Shut Up in My Bones, and then within months of each other, he has won both an Oscar and a Tony, because he won for the costumes for Death Becomes Her, which, if you have not had a chance to see Death Becomes Her, what are you doing? More importantly than that, the other thing that I'm watching, speaking of bringing it back to the theme of the show, I'm into rugby now. Did you know, Weston, that the city of Chicago has a Major League Rugby team?
I did not know that until you told me right before we were recorded, but I was
correct.
Equally shocked then as I am now.
That's right. Well, first of all, U.S. has Major League Rugby. Second, there are a series of teams, and one of them is the Chicago Hounds. The regular season just ended, and the Chicago Hounds won home field advantage for the playoffs that start this weekend. They are some of the most genuine, hilarious, rabid fans I have ever encountered. It's called Dogtown, the area where you go to see the matches. And the most wonderful part of this fandom that I have found so far is at the end of every match. First of all, rugby is, Churchill calls it the hooligan's game for gentlemen. Everything is based on like a high level of sportsmanship. But at the end of the matches, once the teams have gone and congratulated each other, thanked the refs, who they call sir, all of the fans, and this is specific to Chicago, some other franchises have started doing it, but Chicago did it first. All of the fans come on the field with the coaching staff, with the players, and the players sit there and they sign autographs and they take pictures and they talk to people. And last week when I was there at the match, there was a little girl who came with her dad, and she had like gotten into rugby after seeing the women's team at the Olympics. And so this rugby player was having the sweetest conversation. It was like, if you work hard, maybe you'll play like us one day. It was just, they are the best team. They're just, they're good at what they do. It's a fascinating game with so much incredible strategy. But these guys in particular here in Chicago, they're really taking pains and care to like thank their fan base for being there. So folks, there's another game this Saturday, the first round of the playoffs. So if you want to come, I will be there. DM me. We'll hang out.
Folks, the reason I did know about this before recording is because Ashley is literally wearing a Chicago Hounds shirt right now.
Go Hounds.
Go Hounds. Let's talk some opera.
Huddle up. Let's go inside the huddle.
Grammy award-winning soprano Julia Bullock is cherished in the classical music community for her rich, expressive voice and socially conscious artistry. That was written for me, but I do agree. A passionate advocate for diversity in classical music and a champion of living composers, Julia, along with other friends of the show, Anthony Roth Costanzo and Matthew Aucoin of the American Modern Opera Company, or Amuck, which has been reimagining opera since 2017, just days after completing her starring role in John Adams' Antony and Cleopatra at the Met. Julia is set to perform in 2 of the 12 productions being presented in the Run AMOC Festival at Lincoln Center later this month. Before we dive into her conversation with Oliver, here is a clip of Julia and tenor Brenton Ryan in Antony and Cleopatra from the Met, conducted by John Adams.
The most infectious pestilence upon you. Oh, where rag, thou foul-spoken coward! I'll unhair thy head, I'll spurn thy ties.
I am so thrilled to be welcoming Julia Bullock to Opera Box Score. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
I can't believe that I get to talk to you. The first time I heard you sing was actually at the on the Met broadcast of El Nino. Like, I heard the live performance. Of course, like all the videos and recordings we've been following, but I haven't had a chance to experience just what you sound like in the house until actually a couple days ago. I went to go see Antony and Cleopatra, and you're this girl who completely redefined what it means to be a classically trained singer, quote-unquote opera singer, and all the stuff that you've been doing. And did you ever think that you would be singing at the Met and being you? You're not, singing the Countess in the Marriage of Figaro, which is an incredible thing to do. You're singing a role that was written for you at the Met.
I mean, it's interesting that you say you feel I've redefined something, I guess, in this industry, but actually I feel very much that I'm just following in the legacy of the predecessors who I have respected for years, and even this role of Antony and Cleopatra. Yes, John Adams wrote this piece with my voice in mind, but the piece that opened the Met, this current location of the Met in Lincoln Center in the 1960s, was Leontine Price with the role of Cleopatra in Antony and Cleopatra that was written for her by Samuel Barber. And again, just when I think of the singers throughout history who I've loved, they never limited what they sang or how they wanted to sing, or did and didn't. Also, they didn't ever hinder their creativity. It was just kind of like, where was their intuition kind of guiding them to go? How were their temperaments, and how then did they want to channel their various temperaments into the roles that they sang? So, which translated into them being these very daring vocalists and actors on stage. So, I don't actually think I'm redefining anything. I think I'm just evaluating the current circumstances in which I'm living, trying to take advantage of the freedoms that I have in this day and age. And just singing the shit that brings me a lot of pleasure and joy, honestly, at this point.
No, I mean, I agree with you. And when I think about Leontine Price, obviously, she had this relationship with Samuel Barber. And you even think about somebody like Beverly Sills, who is like quintessential American opera singer. She also, delved into newish music and, maybe made a name for Handel by singing Cleopatra, Not that Handel needed her help, but, he definitely got a boost from her. So you're right. There is a history of this. But I'm also talking about your sense of curiosity and your love of collaboration and your skill at curation, recognized so early in your career that you are, I think, the first classically trained singer to be an artist in residence at the Metropolitan Museum. Would that be right?
That is true. And actually, just when it comes to commissioning work, again, sorry, I'm even just thinking, I'm going to do everything I can to tell you that I'm to deflect everything you're saying about me, because I'm even thinking of like Eleanor Stieber, who commissioned Barber again for Knoxville Summer of 1915. But this idea of commissioning work, I guess, before I even went on this path of singing classical music and was and thinking about like curating entire festivals and things like that. This kind of commissioning work was, even that initial recital tour that I gave in 2014, which led to my introduction to the presenter of Met Live Arts, which gave me my first artist residency at the Met Museum. I had commissioned my own works of Josephine Baker songs that I wanted to perform. And that even then putting those songs on a program is what led to the development of Père Noir, Meditations for Josephine, which is a work that I developed with the director Peter Sellers, composer Taishan Sori, and poet Claudia Rankin. And so, you're right. I guess I have always felt the need, I guess, to share certain material that I had not yet witnessed in the concert hall. And it has just led to more invitations and expansions of that material, even beyond my dreams about it, which is extraordinary.
Yeah, it's not really a question. It's more of like an observation that there are artists, I know many of them, who are just as curious and creative and want to do crazy stuff that's crazy to like the legacy audience, and maybe they do it for 15 people, at a festival where, there's also a cotton candy machine whizzing in the background, But somehow you, through the quality of your tone and the intelligence of your phrasing, and also like the love of language that you have, all these things somehow are so obvious to the audience. And it makes me feel like, okay, there is the possibility to create art at this level if you can be also good at those things, in addition to having the intelligence and the curiosity and the collaborators to work with,
Yeah, I think that you definitely need, we each have to grant ourselves the time and space to reflect and I guess just have visions. And then how do you manifest those visions into some sort of reality that other people can also witness? In that way, I do feel I have been very, very fortunate and lucky.
Well, before we talk about Amuck, can you just talk to us about being John Adams' muse?
Yeah, I always say in response to that, I always say he just talks too much. I don't say that makes that comment truthfully at the heart of hearts of it makes me a little uncomfortable. But I think all that he's responding to, or various composers respond to, is with anyone who inspires them to write certain music, is a kind of commitment to interpretation and a really intense commitment to a delivery that other people can digest. And so, John's music and also the texts that he chooses to set, they just sort of turn me on to no end. And the first time that I met him, it was a 30-minute meeting. I sang some Olivier Messiaen. I sang a song by Oscar Brown Jr., Brown Baby. I sang, I think, a Josephine Baker tune just to brighten the mood a little bit. And then we just sat down and chatted. And he told me about some different projects that he had even thought about writing in the past. Like, he thought about writing a piece about the Black Panthers, but then he said, I just don't know if that was ever my story to tell, or is my story to tell. And I just thought, like, wow, he's just really, talk about somebody who has a lot of privilege and gifts, and who can choose how he wants to spend his time and his resources. It's like he's also a very thoughtful, considerate, and sensitive person. Of course, not every moment of every day. I can also attest to that. But it's like, in general, I just feel that John, I don't know. There's something that I just get so much out of having. I've been able to glean so much out of the opportunities of being able to work on his music, and even just vocally, it's unlocked many things that I think would have been trapped if it hadn't been able to be unleashed through his work. And it's encouraged me to sing other things in the future. It's like, and even this role of Cleopatra, it's sort of the breadth of it, the depth of it. It's kind of the role of a lifetime, because of all of the demands of the piece. And again, it's like when you're thinking about the grand opera experience, in some ways, I think that this role, even though it was written in, I think it's 2020, the first drafts of it, maybe. I can't even remember when the piece was premiered, because I was on maternity leave and withdrew from the initial production of it in San Francisco. But when he wrote it, anyway, I just feel the work. It's like this. It's the grand opera experience, then with all of this pointillistic clash and demands of Shakespeare on top of it. It's like, and it's just so satisfying. And I cannot
it's
wait.
Relentless. I mean, I don't know
how. It is
how
relentless.
Do you have to take a nap after you're done?
I rest. No, I'm actually really invigorated after the performance, which lets me know that actually it's what I'm doing on stage with it, and also what we have developed in it on stage as a group in our work together. That it's we're doing the right things. Otherwise, if I was feeling really drained, it would that means that there's something off, or either I'm trying too hard, or I'm not engaged enough. So, but yeah. Anyway, I'm like excited about where, even just in operatic repertoire, where I'm going to go next, and just because of what this role has allowed me to explore vocally. So that's cool.
Well, you mentioned that you sang Messiaen for John, and I guess that's as good a seg as anything, that you are singing Harawi. Is that how I say that? Is that correct?
Yeah,
Harawi.
that's fine. Yeah, good.
As part of the Amuck Festival. I guess we need to just give the headline here that American Modern Opera Company is giving a festival. Is it the first festival that you guys are presenting?
No, I think we've had we've done the Ojai Festival, which I wasn't able to be a part of again because I was in midst of pregnancy and then also got COVID. And actually, it was the COVID that held me back, not the pregnancy at that time. But so we've done the Ojai Festival, and then there've been a lot of kind of smaller festivals or like collection of performances that we've done across the U.S.
Okay, well, this one is going to be at Lincoln Center, and there are 10 New York premieres across 12 productions. I guess Julius Eastman is the only composer who's not still alive that's represented in this.
Is that true?
No.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done. Oh, well, I guess Messiaen. That's another one.
Yeah, it's Messiaen too. Yeah.
But it's all. I mean to say, it's all new music for the most part. Yeah. And for me, the headline is getting to see this comet, the Monteverdi thing, that the comet Popea, which I read about when it first happened. Sounds super cool. But you're doing the New York premiere of, is it like a staged version of the Messiaen song cycle?
That's right. So I first heard this song cycle, Aroui, maybe 15 years ago while I was still a music student. And I didn't even hear the whole thing. It was just some of Messiaen's songs. And then when I went online, because I was so struck by his music, I went online and found recordings and, of course, the poetry of this 50-minute song cycle written for soprano and piano. And it was so overwhelming, like the impact of it was so overwhelming. There was a lot of it that I genuinely, I guess just didn't, maybe understand is the right word to use. But again, just talking about like impressions that it left, it was just something that I was like, I want to find a time to sing this. I'm not sure when, and I don't know in what context, but this is something that I really want to do. So I ordered the score, translated the work myself, and then it took almost 5 years until I had the opportunity to kind of think about how I wanted to do this. And initially, because of the dichotomies in the work, talking about man and woman, loss and love, life and death, I thought I wanted to take the kind of duality with the soprano and the pianist and maybe have two singers and two pianists. But, upon further research, Aroui or Karavi is it's a arts practice, a performing arts practice that was developed by people who lived in the Andes Mountains, so like Bolivia, Chile, Peru. And it involves movement and music. And the philosophies of it, it's about like uttering broken words or phrases. It's about improvisation and imitation. It's also at the heart of Aroui is this voicing of our environments so that we are not only immersed in them, but feel connected to them. And then whatever fractures in reality that we experience become kind of composites again. And Messiaen was inspired by this arts practice that is still offered today, you can across the globe by various practitioners. And anyway, so I decided that ultimately I wanted to sing the work in its entirety myself with a pianist, but then I also wanted to invite two dancers to perform it or embody it alongside me on stage. Now I'm just going on and on because I love Messiaen so much. I love this work so much. Yeah, it's just one of the most profound things I've been a part of.
It's obvious that it's an important work for you, and I do think that with pieces that are challenging and maybe not initially audience friendly, we creators are trying to think of some way to present it so that it's more accessible. and that maybe there's another touch point for an audience that might not go see something like this. It's like, oh, there's dancers in that, or oh, it's Julia Bullock. So I trust her, so I'll just it's your brand, that you're selling. And so it's I feel the same way about Barbara Hannigan. It's like she's doing the most bat poop crazy stuff, but because she's her, it's like, okay, well, I guess she cares about this, so I better investigate.
Yeah, that's nice. That's nice.
Well, we don't have much time left, but I just want to, I have spoken to Anthony Costanzo about Amuck before, so if old-time listeners of the podcast know what it's all about, but there are other things in the festival. Is there any particular production that you would love to promote here? Besides, I want everybody to go see the Popea Comet thing and see
Yes.
Arawi, and there are lots of things to promote, but is there something that's really meaningful to you as well?
I think the Julius Eastman concerts, which will be taking place in the, I believe it's in the main campus at Lincoln Center, kind of in the quad. I think that it's going to be
David
really
Geffen
special.
Hall, I think.
David Geffen Hall, yeah. And that will have, that involves a lot of different performers. But honestly, I think because everything in the festival is pay what you can or pay what you want, just talking about accessibility, I hope that people will feel really encouraged to attend. And also, maybe just speaking about Amuck and what we do, it's like we're a group of artists who are friends. We respect each other's work, both within the American Modern Opera Company, but also outside of it. And we just come together in order to help each other's sort of passion projects come to life. And we help to produce them and also perform in them. And one thing, even though we also have a lot of guests in this festival, every single person who participates in Amuck is paid the same. And there's it's based on kind of the hours of preparation or days of preparation for rehearsal and things like that. So, but it's something just when we think about honoring an entirety of a person and their contributions to various projects. That's something that I always just want to talk about because we are very transparent about that amongst ourselves. And it's something that I'm so proud to be a part of our culture as an opera company. Which I can't say for every opera company in the world, but anyway,
So you've given back some of your feet to the Met, right?
But of course, actually, I have because we bought a couple of really wonderful books that they sell in their Met bookstore around Magic Flute for my child. So anyway, yes, I have given back to the Met.
Well, Julia, one day when the stars align, I'd love to have you come on my radio show and talk about your recordings because that's more of like a buttoned up, radio show. But here, it was really actually nice to hear you just talk from the heart about some of these things that you're doing. And, I'll make sure that the audience has access to all the website, all the links, so they can learn more about the festival. But it starts essentially June 18th. And there is a ton to see, and the pay what you can is so great for everybody. Julia Bullock, thank you so much for being our guest on Opera Box Score.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you, Oliver.
Brown baby, brown baby, as you grow up, I want you to drink from a plenty cup. I want you to stand up tall and proud, and I want you to speak up clear and loud, brown baby.
Brown Baby from Julia Bullock's Grammy-winning album Walking in the Dark with pianist Christian Reif. Our thanks to Primo Artists for connecting us with Julia. The Run AMOC Festival begins June 18th and runs for 1 month through July 18th. Learn more on the webpage for this episode at operaboxscore.com.
How about we root for the home team?
It's Pride Month, and what could be gayer than a high Baroque opera seria originally cast with all characters, male and female, being sung by castrati? Well, in Home Team, the cast for Haymarket Opera's upcoming production of Leonardo Vinci's Artaserse will include friends of the show Kimon Mara, Kangmin Justin Kim, and our next interview guest, Elijah McCormack, who will perform the character of Samira. Before we join that conversation, here is Elijah singing one of Ruggiero's arias from Handel's Alcina.
An excerpt from the 2024 Handel Aria competition, Mi lusinga il dolce affetto from Alcina, sung by my guest, Elijah McCormack. Welcome to Opera Box Score.
Thank you. Happy Pride. Thank you for having me.
Speaking of Pride, what would you like to be called, Elijah or Eli?
I often do Elijah professionally, but yeah, Eli outside of programs.
Okay, well, this is clearly a highly professional conversation we're about to have. So I'm really thrilled to be talking with you, especially during Pride, but I don't want to, make it seem like the only reason why we're speaking is because of Pride. Actually, your name came up not long ago. Well, maybe it was long ago, but when Ensemble Altera released their first album, The Lamb's Journey, and there were some really sexy music videos made. And we played actually a bit of your solo singing O Salutaris, the Asian Waltz, because you sound incredible in that recording.
Thank you.
I forget who the other singer is. I should remember this, but your intonation and your tone and the two of you together, especially, it sounds like what I think, angels sound like. I know that's sounds twee or whatever to say something like that, but there is really something about your tone quality that I think people, once they hear it, they're like, oh, and they suddenly get emotional and they start realizing, I didn't know that I love this music so much. Can you define your own voice type and sort of talk about how your unique, I don't want to talk about identity yet, but at least your presentation, your vocal presentation fits in the world of opera and early music? I know that's a lot of question.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I've been singing basically all my life in church choirs, specifically in the Episcopal tradition, which values a certain type of singing and that kind of training tends to lend itself to a certain type of singing, which is stereotypically a very straight tone, and kind of light and easy to blend with. And I have a train of thought. I didn't major in music in college, in undergrad. I did a studio art degree. I did music all 4 years, but I didn't pursue it for a long time. I didn't think I was going to have a career in it. And my senior year was about the time that I started becoming acquainted with the idea of early music.
I mean, you're in Chicago now doing opera. And I know you've had very specific experiences singing opera that maybe nobody else would have ever been hired for?
My first experience doing a Baroque opera, or doing an opera at all, was my senior year, when my little college, Skidmore College, got a donation to do a fully staged opera, which they didn't ordinarily do. And they chose a Handel opera. And that was sort of the first time that I got a sense that my voice would be like good for a certain kind of opera, because I mean it's a stereotype that early music is all about straight tone singing and whatnot, but it is friendlier to a kind of lighter voice that tends to use less vibrato, and a voice that sounds like mine. And I found that I played the role of Arsamenes, and I found that it really fit my voice like a glove in a way that most other operatic repertoire I'd tried did not. So that sparked some interest for me, and I pursued a graduate degree in early music in historical performance at Indiana University.
Arsamene, a role normally taken by mezzos or countertenors in Circe by Handel.
Yes, we did have to, we did bump one of the arias up a couple steps for me, because at the time I didn't have a great middle and low range. But yeah.
Well, can you, just for the audience, tell the audience what you characterize your Fach as, or at least what's on your business card or your CV for how people should understand what your voice type is?
I would broadly just say soprano. That's a fairly good descriptor for me. I often say male soprano primarily just to clear up audience gender confusion, because it's remarkable how much a little detail like that can prime people's opinions about what they're seeing. If they hear me and see me and the way that I present on stage, and they're not sure what kind of person they're looking at, sometimes they can look at the program and that leads them in a direction.
Good. I'm so glad that we got there. I don't want the audience to think that I'm like, I don't know, bullying you, or like, only bringing you on here to talk about this, because I do really have a lot of faith in your artistry, and I'm interested in your artistry. Mm-hmm. But it is Pride Month, and you are, I want to say outspoken, but you have opinions, and you've had unique experiences, and you've taken to your own social media to, I don't want to say lash out, but to respond to some of your experiences. And I find them to be galvanizing, what you have to say, even though I'm a cisgendered gay man. I feel like, some of the things that you say about your experiences can relate to other experiences of being othered in classical music, but actually just in general, Yeah. So we are now at this topic. Can you talk about maybe some of the, transphobia you've experienced, or some of the microaggressions you might have experienced in classical music?
Overwhelmingly, if I've gotten like a significant negative reaction, it's generally online. And because it's online, it is normally people that I would not consider a part of my audience, and that broadly are not a part of any classical music audience. And so they kind of need to invent their own reality and like make up their own narrative of what exactly they think I'm doing wrong, which leads to things that, like you said, I wasn't lashing out, and truly I wasn't. It's generally quite funny to see the realities that people come up with, that I'm like grifting in the early music world, because of course, if you want to make the big bucks, you can go into early music as a transmasculine soprano and get all the gigs ever. No more for anybody else. Yeah. And it's just very silly. And the Handelaria competition, that those videos have gotten shared around a few times, and people talk about like competing as the gender that you're not. And it's like, well, they're not gender segregated competitions. I'm not ruling out that there might be some classical voice competitions that are separated by gender, but I've never been in one. So it's kind of silly things like that. Things that I encounter in real life are a little bit more ambiguous. Usually they're more accidental. And a lot of them are to do with patrons and not the organizations that I sing with.
Right. No, that's what I'd be curious about. Like, what are some of the encounters that just so we're all sharing, like early in my experience in classical music, like in the 90s when I was, earning my keep around classical music areas, spaces, people would come up to me and tell me that my English was good. And then they would ask me where I was from after that. And I would tell them from Chicago. So I wonder if there are people who just like they mean well, but they don't realize that what they're saying is, not sensitive.
Yeah, I mean, I would say the most common question that I get is, "Are you a countertenor?" To which I would say, generally wouldn't call myself that. And sometimes they ask me, like, why does your voice sound like that? Clearly meaning, like, why are you credited as a male soprano and you're singing this high? And there are lots of ways that I could answer that question, but generally not very many ways that I feel like answering that question to someone that I don't know.
Fair enough. If I'm not mistaken, there has been some jobs you've gotten that have sort of promoted you as a male soprano, like where your identity was actually critical to the concept.
There have been a few things. The major things that are coming to mind right now are Pride related, like Pride gigs and concerts and such. Was there one in particular that you were thinking of?
I feel like I saw a picture of you. I don't know if you were topless or something like that, but it was definitely there was some skin, and maybe it was a little bit. It was pretty vulnerable. Am I completely misremembering that?
If there was skin, like if my like top surgery scars were visible, then that probably would have been Turn of the Screw with Illuminarts Miami, which I don't think they probably credited me as a male soprano, as I typically asked to be for solo engagements, but I don't think they promoted that specifically to my memory. But
were you singing Miles?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, to have an image of you, for public consumption that shows your top scars, I feel like that is that is provocative, or maybe it's not. Maybe I'm closed-minded about it.
I actually don't know if they pushed that one too much. I might have posted it several times because I liked it.
Okay. How do you feel about singing roles that are the character is female?
It's interesting. I'm doing it right now for the first time in about 13 years. It would be. The closest I got before that was in a premiere of a new opera by Benjamin Perry Wenzelberg called Night Town, based on James Joyce's Ulysses, with Lowell House Opera in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And that character in Joyce's Ulysses changes gender on the page. And so it was written to like be playable by anybody. And in our production, we went like fairly femme. It was like kind of a drag role, but it was deliberately like that. And this time it's quite different. It is just a female character who would have been played by a castrato. And yeah, it's interesting. I'm feeling out what it feels like to me still, because there is a level on which it's surreal. I guess I do get misgendered a lot in my day-to-day life already. And I do like get misgendered a lot online on purpose whenever anything of mine, catches attention from tons of people. But it's kind of gotten to the point, or therefore it's kind of gotten to the point where if I hear like, she and her applied to me or whatever, my brain just kind of goes, wonder who that's referring to. It's not me. And for this, I like a few people in the cast and production team have been very nice and like corrected their pronoun usage in staging rehearsals so far. And I've just been like, listen, it's fine. It's the character. Like this, it's not making me feel anything in particular right now because it's the character. It's like having a drag persona. So yeah, but we'll see how it feels when it's all, all makeup and costumes and like wigs and stuff.
Right. Well, I feel like you might have something to say about, 17th and 18th century opera and gender in it. I don't know if you've given, talks about this, like, or explained things like this to, people who don't know about the history of, a Baroque opera and deliberate gender confusion, and it's even like written into the opera. I don't know if this feels like it gives you permission to do something that is transgender on stage.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, especially since getting surgery, it's remarkable how much more freedom you can feel when you're comfortable in your own skin. Like I know a lot of transmasculine people who have gotten a lot more comfortable being feminine, presenting feminine, sometimes acting more feminine once they've gotten to a place where they feel comfortable and safe. And maybe that's what's going on in this production with me now, that it's just like I am and I've been for a while in my life at a point where I'm secure enough in my own identity that regardless of what other people see me as, I can wear what I want. I can act how I want, which I do also recognize is a privilege, right? Because a lot of people, especially like trans feminine people, often feel like they don't have that same freedom to move around in the world. Castrato repertoire was my first encounter with Baroque music and my first encounter with like doing a full opera role. And that is really foundational to my involvement with early music, is this whole group of people who occupied a very interesting position in their society, in their society's gender paradigms, and also sang music that I like to sing.
It strikes me that you're in a cast with Kangman Justin Kim, who was recently heard at Haymarket Opera in a as Cleopatra.
Yes.
If you know that. And Justin is very subversive and risque even. It's just like, I don't know if you feel any kind of affinity with him or if he's just like the opposite of you in a way.
Well, I've only just met all of these people. I've actually never worked with any of them before, any of the other cast members. So I wouldn't say that I know any of them well at this point. We're only a week into staging. But I appreciate anyone who is gender subversive on stage in any way. I think it's always inspiring, and I should have something else to say about that, shouldn't I?
That's okay. You don't have to. But I mean, you are in a cast that is just chock full of countertenors. And so, I think that being the male soprano on the team, I think you're probably going to have to, a lot of people are going to say, oh, all the countertenor show. I mean,
like there are a bunch of countertenors. There's Justin and Kimon Murat, who I understand you've met, also, and Ryan Belangi, and they're all really remarkable. In fact, Key, I think, can sing higher than I can. At least has a usable range that's probably higher than mine.
Yeah, I think he sang. I know he sang Sifare in Mitridate very recently, and that's actually a role I see for you. I don't know if you've thought about it.
That is not what I've looked at, but I will keep in mind. I don't get to do as much opera as I would like, honestly, but.
And Drew Minter, who is staging the whole thing, is also a countertenor.
Yes, and he's amazing. He knows this whole style and like rhetorical language like the back of his hand. It's so fun and like really like absolutely has tons of ideas and like knows exactly what to do, but also seems very flexible if people are not sure what to do. Yeah, and everyone in the cast is really remarkable. I think the lady of the cast is Emily Fons, who is singing Mandane, the prima donna, and she is a mezzo, I believe, but has an amazing high range.
So the opera is by Vinci. It's Artaserse. Can you, since none of us have seen this opera, can you talk about just the style and what to expect in this show?
Well, it's not too different from a Handel opera seria. There's an alternation of recit and aria, and it is very recit heavy. There's a lot of long conversations and monologues and stuff that are. When I say long conversations, possibly some people's eyes glaze over, but they are really exciting. It's a very dramatic, like very high intensity storyline, and there's a lot of emotion and intense feeling going on. And then the arias, I don't know exactly how many of them there are. I think I have 5, and I'm the seconda donna. So it is a lot of music, but a lot of people in the cast are getting to really flex their virtuoso skills.
There's some crazy arias in this show that are just 8 minutes, 10 minutes of just balls to the walls.
Yeah, the one that we just did a sort of stumble through of our Act 1 this afternoon, and the aria that Key sings at the end of that closes out the act is pretty bonkers amazing. It's pretty wild. I have not heard someone sing like that in a long time.
I cannot wait. I do feel like this era of opera, basically the end of opera seria. I mean, we get some more, but it feels like this is why, Gluck wanted to reform opera, because it's too much. It's decadent, but we could use some decadence in our lives. It's joyful decadence.
Yeah, and I don't think it's there is a lot of it, but I don't think it's boring. Like I said, I think there's so much drama, there's so much energy. I think it's going to be really, really fun to watch.
A little bit of the finale from the 2012 production of Artaserse at Opera de Nancy-Lorraine. Our thanks to Elijah for being a guest on the show. Haymarket Opera's Artaserse opens June 27th, and tickets are extremely limited, so get yours now. Find a link at the webpage for this episode at operaboxscore.com.
This just in. The 2-minute drill.
All right, listen up. Here's everything you need to know about what happened in Operaland this week.
In a return of our newest and most popular segment, WTF at KC Today, ticket sales have fallen through the floor at the Kennedy Center since Trump's takeover. Single ticket sales were down by half in April and May compared to last year, and subscriptions from the Washington National Opera and National Symphony Orchestra had dropped by a quarter. Projected revenue for the coming year is $2.7 million in the coming fiscal year. Last year, it was $4.4 million. An anonymous employee confirmed to the New York Times that the numbers were real.
A Cantonese opera in Hong Kong, inspired by Donald Trump, has made headlines in the West for its surreal portrayal of the U.S. president and other real-life figures. The comedy, Trump the Twins President, involves a Trump secret twin, Martians, and social commentary. Playwright Edward Lee wanted to create a work that would attract young people to Cantonese opera, which usually doesn't take on such contemporary subject matter.
Why is transporting instruments such a headache? That's the question double bassist Valentina Sheldhofen-Chardelli found herself asking over and over as she ran into problems transporting her instrument on planes across the UK and Europe. My double bass is my voice, my livelihood, my responsibility, says Chardelli. Yet it is often treated as oversized luggage, subject to arbitrary rules, unpredictable costs, and even disrespectful handling by airline or train staff unfamiliar with the needs of traveling musicians. She's calling for the EU to create clear regulations for instrument transportation, starting, as all causes do, with a petition on change.org.
Major awards news. Australian mezzo-soprano Florane Brockway has won first prize at Concours Musical International de Montreal. Apologies, Oliver, along with 30,000 Canadian bucks. That's what, 50 freedom dollars? Meanwhile, Sumi Zhou has been named Commander of the Order of Arts and Letters by the French Ministry of Culture.
Exit stage right. Danish composer and music theorist Per Norger has died at the age of 92. Norger dabbled in most of the experimental movements that characterized 20th century classical music and was known primarily as a symphonist. He also composed 6 operas, including Gilgamesh, Siddhartha, and The Divine Circus.
The Ukrainian government says that tenor Vladislav Gorai was killed during a volunteer mission near the Russian border. Gorai joined Odessa Opera in 1993 and remained there the rest of his life, with his final performance only a day before being killed in action. In 2013, the tenor was recognized as an honored artist of Ukraine.
And on this day, June 10th, a couple of premieres. 1668 was the first performance of Antonio Draghi's Gli Amori di Cefalo e Procri. 1797 was the first performance of Paisiello's Chi la Dula la Vince in Milan. 1806 brought us the first performance of Nicolas Dalayrac's Deux Mots in Paris. 1890 was the first performance of Reginald Delcoven's Robin Hood right here in Chicago. 1920 was the first performance of Janji's La Légende de Saint-Christophe in Paris with Germain Luby. 1951 was the first performance of Franz Joseph Haydn's opera Orpheus and Eurydice at the Teatro della Pergola in Florence, posthumously, obviously. A couple of birthdays for you on this day. 1810 was the birth of German composer and conductor Karl Otto Ehrenfried Nicolai. 1865 brought us the birth of Danish composer and straight-up banger composer Carl Nielsen. 1873 brought us the birth of German baritone Otto Goritz in Berlin. He created Fiddler and Königskinder by Humperdinck. 1889 brought us the birth of Austrian bass baritone Alfred Jäger in Borno. He created Mandrika and Arabella and The Man in Glückliche Hände by Schoenberg. 1912 brought us the birth of Welsh tenor Edgar Evans. He became a founder of the new Royal Opera House Company at Covent Garden, where he was a principal tenor for almost 30 years. 1930 brought us the birth of Australian baritone Geoffrey Shard in Sydney. He created Coragos in Punch and Judy by Bert Whistle. And happy birthday in 1939 to Romanian soprano Ileana Cotrubas in Galati.
And that's your 2-minute drill.
A little something out there for all you Danish opera Nielsen heads. A little thing from Act 2 of his opera Maskerade, Hord Odd Kavaler, with Marianne Rorholm, Danish National Symphony Orchestra, Ulf Schirmer conducting. So Weston, my friend, I have a slight connection to Maskerade, which is also known as the Danish National Opera. I actually helped produce the Chicago premiere of Maskerade just over 10 years ago. Yeah, I used to help run a little music company here in town called Vox 3 Collective, and we were trying to get better at writing grants. And so we would, write grants, get turned down, get the feedback, make the grants better, with the hope of in a couple of seasons getting a big grant and doing something big. So we wrote this very silly one that was like, hey, it's a birthday year for Carl Nielsen. Let's do the Chicago premiere of the Danish National Opera. So we put all this crazy stuff in, thinking this is the one we'll get turned down on, and then we can make it better. And then an unnamed charitable organization here in Chicago gave us the money. So then we had to put on an entire Danish music festival here in the city of Chicago, which included the Chicago premiere of Carl Nielsen's Maskerade. Yes, that's how you pronounce it in Danish. We had a Danish language coach. We had choreographers. It was quite the undertaking, and I've learned a little bit of Danish. Very little of it is retained, but I do remember that the word for snowflake is snørfløke.
That's the most important thing that you learned from that experience. Sometimes you girl boss just enough. That is an incredible story.
It's she's lived a life, this one. She did girl boss a little too close to the sun on that one.
It seems like Trumpet girl boss a little too close to the sun as well. Kennedy Center tickets falling apart. I mean, not too surprising. We've talked a lot about, artists staying and performing in various places or canceling, and like the ethics and like visibility and strategic importance of those things. But I think very obviously a lot of people who are just, listeners are choosing not to patronize Kennedy Center, and I think very understandably so.
I hate it for the WNO and I hate it for the NSO, because like they are the byproduct children of divorce at this point. They don't necessarily deserve any of this, but what are they going to do? Leave? It's like if I have a good deal on a really amazing apartment that's perfect for me and I have a crappy roommate, I'm not going to like move out to spite that. My heart goes out to them.
Yeah, it's a tough situation. Another tough situation is if you're a double bassist and have to fly your instrument on the airport. So this is an interesting little story. I mean, obviously at the core is just a change.org petition, but Ciardelli does seem to be like committed to like, pursuing this and has some, actual policies written out, like, having transparent fees that are consistent and, specific rules and regulations because, this is a little thing, whenever we're putting together stories for the 2-minute drill, I'll go kind of digging along. And I feel like every month or so, there's like a story about an instrument getting lost or destroyed on an airline.
It happens so much.
So often. And you think about, some of these, even a cheap double bass is still going to run you quite a bit,
Yeah.
That's even before you start getting to anything like a Stradivarius or anything like that. And, we've talked before consistently about how, opera is such an international art form, especially in Europe. There's no, except for maybe Germany. And even then, you're not going to be in just one place, just one country. It's an impossibility. You have to have that consistency of being able to travel, to be like, feel like you're safe traveling with your instrument, even if it's a piccolo. You're still, I've had friends in orchestras with very small instruments that are, will just like clutch it the entire flight because they don't want to lose it, or break it. It's such a big deal. And I was kind of interested that there wasn't really a unified EU regulation about these sorts of things, because that seems like something they would have covered.
Yeah, they seem to be legally, having their ducks in slightly better rows than we do over here. So yeah, I was also surprised by that. And, my heart goes out to those people because like, we get a little bit blessed as singers, blessed and cursed, because when we travel, we have no choice. If your voice, if you can remove your instrument, I have further questions for you, but like we're carrying them around all the time.
Legally, it's a carry-on.
Yeah, usually. But I'm chink. But yeah, the smaller instruments like the pick, the clarinet, there's those. But then when you get into those larger instruments, I mean, how do you guarantee, how do you ensure for safekeeping, even if you've got like the hardest of hard cases? Like there's so much room for disaster there. So yeah, my heart really goes out to these people. This is one change.org petition I think I can actually get behind.
It is something that is really worth talking about. Unfortunately, we can't talk anymore because we're out of time. Let's wrap this show up.
Good call, bad call on Opera Box Score.
Good call, bad call. That's how we end the show. I've got nothing. Oliver's not even here. He's a ghost created by electrons on my Audacity here. But luckily, Ashley Hargrave is sitting right in front of me.
I sure am. Listeners, Audra McDonald's performance in Gypsy. She sings Rose's Turn at the Tonys this year. It is on YouTube. It is a masterclass, pun intended, because Audra did masterclass, but it is a masterclass in performance, and it is a masterclass in acting, and feel however you want about how the awards went and who they could have or should have gone to. But that series of minutes, you are mesmerized. I have not seen performing. I don't know if I've ever seen performing like that. It's absolutely stunning. It is worth the minutes of your time that it would take. So go and watch Audra's performance on the Tony Awards this year. It will be worth it.
She's a legend. That's it for this week's edition of America's Talk Radio Show about opera. Make sure you subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts, get your voice heard, and find links to stuff we've talked about at our website, operaboxscore.com. That's also where you can put your money where our mouths are. Give back to the OBS using the Support the Team tab. Your announcer is Norm Waddell. Your creative consultant is Oliver Camacho. And and your audio editor is me. The executive producer of the OBS is George Cedarquist. For co-host Ashley Hardgrave, with guests Julia Bullock and Elijah McCormack, I'm Weston Williams, asking you to continue the conversation about opera even though you're statistically not doing it at the Kennedy Center. We're back with an all-new show next week, plus you get more opera headlines, more hot takes, and more pride. Join us.